let's talk about a topic that everybody loves, and that topic is vacation. All right, I have a point of view that you should schedule all of your vacation in January. Right when the year starts, schedule it all. Not take it all, schedule it all. So as the year starts, you want to plan out the rest of your year, right? And it's a great time to stick all of your PTO on the calendar, however much you're allowed at your company, or if you're the owner, however much you think you can reasonably take off without the business kind of imploding. So in January, get your calendar out for the whole year and schedule all of your PTO. So we started doing this at our company meetings. We have this all hands kickoff meeting in January. One of the things that we ask everyone to do is we stop the meeting, we play some music, and we ask everyone to go through their calendar and to go into our system where they can request time off and request some days off. It was so much fun. We did this last year, and our managers were joking with me after saying, I just got so many time off requests in my inbox. Thanks, Chris. But I'm telling you, it's important. So since I've been building businesses, I've always wanted to build my business around my life. That's why we get into business for ourselves, right? That's why you become an entrepreneur. And if you're working at a business, that's why you aspire to kind of climb the ladder and have a role that gives you a little bit more autonomy as you can start to build your business around your life and not have to fit your life in around your business. And so by taking this PTO first or personal schedule first approach early in the year, you're able to build your work around the commitments that you make for your life. So when I do this in January, I start by sitting down with my wife and we look at our schedule. We look at the kids' calendars, when they're going to be off of school, and I take time off when they're going to be off of school. We look at when we're going to do our family vacations. And even if we don't know where we're going, we'll pick a week or we'll pick that time that we're going to go on vacation. I look at events that I want to go to. My personal hobbies. I often take my son once a year to an away basketball game to just have that fun experience of visiting a city that we don't usually go to. And so I'll look at the schedule for the teams that we're following. All of these schedules and everything are just helping me pick out the days and put things on my calendar that then business can fill around. Sometimes there's competitions that I'm doing and I'll put those on the calendar. I'll put days before and after the competition when I know I'm going to be tired and I need to rest. Those go on the calendar. Doing this in advance, even if you don't know your perfect schedule in advance, it really helps you to not overlap with the other people on your team. Because a lot of times what happens is you get towards the end of the year and everybody's scrambling to use the rest of their days off. And then everybody's all out at the same time. And maybe your manager won't approve your PTO. Or if you are the manager, you can't approve everyone's PTO. And it's really chaotic. And so if you can do this early in the year, you avoid that chaos of people overlapping all their vacations. It also helps you give your team advance notice of when you're going to be out. So for instance, I'll tell you in March of this year, I'm doing a huge adventure and a marathon in Antarctica. And for 3 weeks, I'm going to be out of the office. My whole team knows about it. Everybody knows I'm doing this race. We've already started planning for it. We've already canceled the weekly meetings that I'm going to be in and moved our quarterly planning to accommodate this because we've planned it so far in advance. And so the same is true for your vacations, for your personal commitments, for your kids' professional development days that you want to be home and spend that day off with them. You've got to get those things on the schedule early. Now, another little hack I recommend is give yourself some surprise 3-day weekends. These are the absolute best. When you get to a day in the week or a week in the year and you're like, I am off Friday. I requested off on Friday. Everything else has filled in around this and you magically have no commitments on that day off. You can do what you're actually supposed to do on your PTO, and that's relax, recharge. You don't have a commitment that you're doing personally, but you actually have some time off that you can recharge and come back invigorated. That's what our time off is supposed to do for us. So give yourself some of those surprise 3-day weekends. Take some random Mondays, some random Fridays off. Believe me, you'll be excited about it. And then the other thing that I do is I take random half days as well. Because when I've got a half day off, when I've got an afternoon off, for instance, I know that I can pick my kids up at school and surprise them at school and bring them home or take them after school to some fun activity, the trampoline park or something like that. Those days fill my cup up because I get so excited. Or I'll take off a morning when I can just go on a breakfast date with my wife wife after dropping the kids off for school. I can go for a long run in the morning, or I can go and get a massage or something like that. Like those half days and full days, those surprise days you put on your calendar far in advance, help you recharge throughout the year. They're like finding the prize at the bottom of your cereal box. I promise you, you will not regret finding those half days and full days. And the thing about putting your schedule on your calendar in advance, you can always change it. Like you can always be a month out and say, you know what, that week I took off, I'm going to move to a different week. Or that long weekend, I'm going to move here instead because I'm going to have a friend come into town. You can always change your time off. But if you don't put it on your calendar, more often than not, you will not even use the full amount of time off that's appropriate for you to take in your business. So please be proactive, do this in advance for yourself, and prompt your team to do this in advance. If you have a company meeting in January, a kickoff meeting like mine, prompt the whole team to schedule some time off. And then you can do like we do, bring it up at every quarterly meeting or a few times a year and tell your team, we're going to pause, we're going to take a break for you to look at your calendar and for you to look at your remaining PTO balance and actually schedule some time off. So don't let this be reactive. Don't just wait till all the requests flood in at the end of the year. Tackle this in January. You won't be sorry. We schedule things far in advance, like our team meetings, our strategic planning, our annual planning, our company retreat. All those things are already scheduled. We already have all those dates on the calendar. And so I'm not going to take personal time off on the same week that we have annual planning, or the same week that we're doing our retreat, or the week that we have our conference playbook. Like those things are locked in far in advance. And so if you think there's a conflict between maybe some work commitments or some busy times of year, I would talk to your team, talk to your boss, talk to whatever, figure out what those work commitments are that are non-negotiables, the time where you actually need to be around, because I can't just take the month off and not do strategic planning for next year. We have that as a regular commitment in the business. But once you've got those big company commitments, that's when you want to fill in all of the personal time. Actually, I'm sure everybody's heard this before, this like metaphor, but I remember first time I ever saw this, I was at like a camp as a little kid, and one of the counselors took this big jar and they put rocks in the jar, and he asked if the jar was full. And then they put smaller rocks in the jar and asked if the jar was full. And we're like, yeah, the jar is full. And then he takes pebbles and he puts them in the jar, and that fills in all the spaces between the rocks. And now is the jar full? Yeah, it's full. And then he takes sand and he dumps the sand all into the gaps. And now we're like, oh, now it's totally full. And then he puts water in the jar and it fills up. And like, that's kind of how our schedules operate. In your calendar, you've got those huge boulders that might be like your big annual conference, or your huge sales day, or your big strategic planning week, or your company retreat. Like those are going to be in your calendar. But then the absolute next thing you need to put in your calendar is those big personal commitments. Because if you don't, you won't have space to put those rocks in later.